This is Barnstable Today for Wednesday, March 11th. Welcome aboard. I'm Mark Mumford. And just a quick reminder that the meetings we cover are available on demand at the town's website, town.barnstable.ma.us.
Water quality here in the town of Barnstable is our focus on today's program. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kevin Friel.
The Coastal Resources Management Committee met in the Town Hall hearing room last evening.
They welcomed a special guest, Dr. Wayne Miller, chair of the town's Board of Health.
Coastal Resources Chair Bob Jones initiated the conversation with Dr. Miller.
I think the biggest thing, the Coastal Resource Management Committee is taking all facets of the management of the three bays area in the Central River. That's all of this came out of what is known as the Camp Dress McGee Plan of 1990. And our meetings, we've had various guests from different stakeholders within the area. And of all of the different topics that we have, I think you were universally agreed within the committee that water quality is our biggest problem within the area. And I know that the Board of Health has recently initiated, I think you call it the 440 rule or something.
Estuary protection, interim estuary protection regulation.
Say that again, please.
Interim estuary protection regulation.
Okay, thank you, yeah. The question would be, could you just, review that a little bit with us? And
Sure. Well, to me, it was always remarkable. I've been on the Board of Health just about 9 years now. And it was always remarkable to me that we had protection in terms of the amount of septic effluent that could be put into a unit area of ground for many areas of town. But we did not have any way of protecting or regulating the amount of septic effluent that was put into the ground per unit area for most of the south side, even in very close proximity to water resources, whether it be the estuaries or the freshwater ponds. And what it required to be able to put on some type of limitation on the amount of septic effluent that could be put into the ground was a determination of how much damage was being done. And very clearly, with the Mass Estuaries Project, which identified that basically every estuary as they've gone through on the south side of the town of Barnstable is not just nitrogen sensitive, but nitrogen impaired. And once that finding came out and the TMDL's total maximum daily loads of nitrogen were established, and those loads were determined to be approximately 50% of what was currently going into the ground, became clear that something had to be done. Of the nitrogen that's going into those estuaries, about 80% comes from controllable sources. 20% is atmospheric and so on, can't be controlled.
In follow-up questioning, Coastal Resources Chair Bob Jones asked about the effectiveness of home-based systems to control the outflow of nitrogen.
Is there any such thing as a small denitrification system that a homeowner could actually put into their property?
Yeah. There are a number of what's called innovative alternative systems that address. Some have been designed for enhanced bacterial removal, those are mostly sand filters, or nitrogen removal, things like the microfast and so on. The board's experience has been that they have seldom worked to the level that they have supposed to have worked at. I mean, they do remove nitrogen, but very seldom is it to the level where they were permitted for. And most of that may be, in fact, a problem of the nature of the occupancy down here. They do not function well in less than full-term, year-round occupancy. They need a constant flow of nutrients to have them function in the proper way. So that IA systems, although they could improve the situation, would not really address the issue to the degree that would bring us into compliance. And I think the other thing that you have to remember, the last two night IA systems that we put in had homeowners put in because of the sensitivity of the location they were in, I think cost almost $45,000. The estimate from Mark Ells, even if we were, I mean, and again, I wouldn't hold Mark to this, but I said, you know, just give me a ballpark. I mean, if you really sewered the whole town, what would it cost per household? And he said, somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 a household. That's less than one IA system. IA system may last for 15 years. It takes how much a year, Tom, in maintenance testing? At least a few $100s every year in maintenance testing, probably closer to 1,000. A sewer is going to last you 100, 150, 200 years. I mean, the reality is that the sewer system is short money, although it looks like a lot of money up front. It's short money if you can stretch it out past a 20-year window for sure. And it gives you a much greater bang for the buck than any alternative IA system would give you.
Jack Mead, chair of the town of Barnstable's Waterways Committee, also sits on the Coastal Resources Committee.
Mead wanted to find out from Dr. Miller about just how much attacking other sources of nitrogen would help the overall water quality picture.
Mead, couple questions for you. I know you stated right at the beginning that 80% of the nitrogen problem is controllable, but 80% of the controllable problem is from sewer septic systems. And you did mention some of the other issues. We need to address that problem. I mean, in our report at some point. And so, I mean, when we talk about dredging or wastewater runoff, from the bang for the buck argument, if we eliminate, dredge everything we could dredge and took care of all the wastewater runoff problem, would you see any depreciation of the TM?
Probably
fixing the TMDLs that get close to where we need to be, or is that?
Well, I think the one thing in terms of road runoff, the one thing you got to remember is that so much of that was addressed when the town redid the 28 corridor.
Right.
I mean, a large part of that was really addressed. And conservation over the last 10 years has done remarkable requirements when people have come in with different projects for mitigation of surface runoff and so on. So I think that's been one of conservation's main contributions over the last 10 years, is that they've addressed the issues which we can as Board of Health. And I think you've gotten a lot of the improvement from road runoff that you're going to already get.
We've maxed that out, is what
I don't
you're saying,
think that, no, there's still some.
Yeah.
Dredging, I think, is really something that can be addressed. The trouble with dredging is that you're going to be walking a line. I mean, you know what conservation's just run into in terms of that little minnow up there in Middle Pond in terms of dredging. You're going to have the same issues in terms of dynamics and bottom issues and so on with your dredging. I think you're going to have to prove that you're going to get a better, that your pluses outweigh your minuses. But even still, I would guess that just looking at what you might be able to get to improvement, I doubt that you'd get much more than a 20-25% improvement. You're even doing everything else perfectly outside of addressing septic systems.
Just a reminder, you can watch the Coastal Resources Committee meetings on demand at the town's website, town.barnstable.ma.us.
As far as this evening's schedule of meetings here in town, the calendar is fairly light, with the ZBA session originally on the calendar for 7 o'clock now canceled.
That leaves just the Old Kings Highway Historic District Committee on tonight's meeting schedule, starting at 7 in the West Barnstable Community Building. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Kevin Friel.
We'll meet you right back here tomorrow. I'm Mark Mumford.